Hey there, welcome to the podcast for creatives. I'm Sasha Souza, CEO and celebrity event designer for my company, Sasha Souza Events, and I am a digital course creator and mentor through the Consultancy for Creatives, where I serve the event industry with downloads, courses, and my Creative Collective monthly membership. We work with over 140 creative event pros every month from all walks of the creative event industry to work on their business and take them from run-of-the-mill to rock star status. You can check out information on consultancyforcreatives.com and make 2021 and beyond better than you ever could have imagined. Hello, you guys. Today's podcast is titled, Thank You, Hayley Paige. It's after gown designer and creative Hayley Paige, who recently lost access to use her own birth name, her Instagram account with over 1 million followers, including images of her personal life, her TikTok, and conservatorship of her brand. Let's go. Okay, you guys, if you're not familiar, this story just broke on December 21st, and it's regarding Hayley Paige, who's a gown designer who sold her company to JLM Couture, which is Jim Helm Couture, back in 2011. And as the story that she's told goes, that when she was 25, she signed a contract with the Mega Gown Company. And if you watch Hayley's vlog, which is on her personal Instagram called All That Glitters on the Gram, she gives a tearful goodbye to the brand that she built, sold, and continues to work for. And this is all part of this story. And I felt every minute of her incredible sadness that she had put out there for everybody after she had been served with a temporary restraining order against using her own name. So the lessons here are long, and I really thank her for coming forward because it will hopefully help others in the industry and in many creative industries who are going to hopefully keep from making similar mistakes in the future. And that's really what I want to try and unpack are the things that her video has said and what we've read online about this deal and exactly how and where it went bad for everybody, because it really is bad for everybody. It's bad for Jim Helm to not have Hayley Paige engaged with a brand that carries her name. It's bad for Hayley Paige to not be able to use her name in anything. And so we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about this. But in my initial reading, it seems that her initial mistake number one, is the fact that she signed a contract without legal advice. And she goes into this very, very briefly in her video, where she basically says, if you're going to sign a contract, make sure it's reviewed by a lawyer. And, I just want to set the stage also that JLM Couture funded the Hayley Paige brand for 10 years. So this isn't something that's happened in a month or in a year. For 10 years, JLM Couture has invested in her and in her brand in order to afford Hayley Paige the opportunities that she may or may not have been given. So I want you to also sort of take off your hat of, oh my gosh, what would happen if this happened to me, and put your hat on that it makes you a business owner. And I'm not saying that JLM Couture is right necessarily, or that Hayley Paige is right necessarily, but just that there are things that you should consider and think about when you are working on and doing contracts with your own clients. This is more than just, I want to sell my name. This is, how do I protect myself throughout any process that is contractual? And I am not an attorney. I'm not giving legal advice. I'm nowhere near an attorney, but I can just give you the feedback from what I am hearing and what I'm seeing. So as far as the side of JLM Couture not wanting her to use a JLM funded entity for her own other businesses, that makes a lot of sense. Because if you look at her TikTok and things like that, she is promoting something that she's working on with Beholden, for example. And if they purchased the Hayley Paige brand and the Hayley Paige name, as it comes to attire and as it comes to any sort of fashion brand, then they would hold the copyright or the trademark to her name. And I haven't gone as far as to look at the trademark database to see if they actually have the trademark on her name, but I would imagine that she did sign away those rights in that original contract. So, and this has also been being negotiated, her new contract, for the last year and a half. So she's had this last year and a half also to sort of, if she didn't want to stay with the brand, to sort of pull herself away in a different direction and truly separate the two things. And so I can understand that while she was negotiating her new contract, she continued to post on the Miss Hayley Paige account. And, I can see where that is part of their brand, or where JLM Couture would believe that that is part of her brand. But I also understand where this is her name. So, cautionary tale, she is temporarily banned. They did take out a temporary restraining order. It doesn't look like it is a permanent thing right now, but temporarily she is banned from using any of her social media accounts that use the name Hayley or Paige or Hayley Paige Gutman or Hayley Gutman or Hayley Paige, spelled any particular way, any derivative of that, including the Miss Hayley Paige Instagram and TikTok accounts, without the CEO of JLM Couture's express permission. She's also asked that she not make any TV appearances. Now, her tearful goodbye, which is she had asked everybody to post at the end, she'd asked for it to be spread far and wide. I'm not sure what the actual ramifications are for her for something like that. Again, I'm not an attorney, but I would imagine that the fact that it is on, BuzzFeed and Nifty and every single wedding blog out there, and it's being talked about now on things like, the Creators Podcast, that we are now basically spreading the information. But it sounds like she was restricted possibly from giving. But again, I'm not sure. But I want to just have you listen to these words. And I hope that you hear these words as you are negotiating your own contracts with whoever that might be. Whether you are negotiating a contract for speaking, whether you're negotiating a contract for a book, whether it's for a television show, if you're selling your brand, or if you're booking a, client. You can never be too desperate when signing a contract. Never be desperate. When you are desperate, you make bad choices. And you have to be willing to let something go. And it is never worth putting yourself in a position where you have lost control or power over your own services or over your own brand. And I've actually had that hard conversation. If you listen to our podcast, Can She Be Meaner? I essentially walked away from a television show with a major, cable network. And I did that because the contract was one of the things that was bad. They wanted to be able to come into my home. They wanted to be able to put microphones where I couldn't expect there to be microphones. So it just wasn't going to work for me and for my own personal life. So you never make changes to your contract. Things like you don't change your force majeure for a client. If you have a warranty or no warranty clause, you don't make changes to that for your client. If you have a hold harmless, you don't make changes to that for your client. And you have any way of disputing settlements, you don't change that for your client. Regardless of what's happening with Hayley Paige, everything that she's doing now is costing her money to have her attorney fight this. And I don't pretend to know what her financial situation is, but I do know that the majority of people in the event industry would not have the ability to monetarily fight something like that with a major corporation. So you have to not make changes to certain clauses, regardless of whether your client just graduated from law school and is trying to prove their worth. You can't do that. So in fact, my lawyer has said to me very clearly, here are some things you should never change. Don't change, like I just said to you, the hold harmless, the warranty, the dispute of settlements, or settlement disputes rather, the force majeure, things like that. Don't change them. And if you're in doubt, you have to have any contract changes or red lines submitted to you. You have to have those reviewed by the attorney who wrote the contract. And if you don't have access to the attorney who wrote the contract, you need to find an attorney who will now review your current contract and review the red lines. And that's just going to cost you more money. So you should always have some form of contact with the attorney who wrote the contract in the first place, because they're the ones who are going to know what should and shouldn't be added or changed, or the intention. And the time period to get something turned around is much shorter that way. So you're not trying to get a new attorney on board who doesn't understand your industry or doesn't understand how you charge, and it just would end up being a much bigger mess. So because of that, I would encourage you to always have access to that attorney. And spending money on this part of your business is part of being in business. And if you're not willing to spend money on your business, then you're not really in business. You're doing it for fun. So again, this is part of it. You have to spend money on your business. And if you don't, and you're just collecting money and not spending it on things like errors and omissions insurance, or you're not spending it on money like liability insurance or attorney's fees and things like that, you're just keeping the money and that's that. The bad news really for you at the end of the day is that you're going to end up doing this just for fun, because you have to have all of those things in place. So now let's get to the point that if you're in a position where you can sell your business and your name is on the business, you have to take special care. Clearly, this is like I said, a cautionary tale, because that requires special handling. So you're not signing away your future possibilities from the age of 25. And while you can say, well, she was young and she didn't know, and it was predatory and they took advantage of her because of her youth, somebody in her inner circle, parents, grandparents, somebody should have said to her, oh my gosh, wake up, girl. You have to have this looked at. And if whoever it was, publicist, agent, I don't know who she has in that circle, but this is one of the most important decisions that she will have ever made in her entire life. So this doesn't mean that you shouldn't name a business after yourself. What it actually means is that you have to somehow separate them from one another. And she didn't separate the Hayley Paige bridal gown business from the Hayley Paige person. So, and was commingling those things. And I think that, and while I've heard from the JLM, CEO has disagreed as to whether or not she could use her accounts to promote a different side of her business, both of these may have already been in her contract. We don't know what was in that contract. And the fact that she sold her name and was also the name of her company and is not able to be used on another business in perpetuity is super sad. And I feel for her, but this is not surprising. It wasn't, when I listened to her and I did the reading, I wasn't shocked that the things that were in her contract would be so tight. And I don't agree with the decision, and I don't think it's right. But I had a very wise attorney that told me once that what I think makes sense, or what does make sense, is not always what the law mandates. And that really helps me now when I'm trying to make legal business decisions, because I am realized now that the law actually doesn't feel. It's there to be interpreted by whoever is called upon to rule on it. It doesn't have the emotions and the feelings and the sadness and all of those things. It just is. So when I'm trying to decide whether I need to make an adjustment to a contract and I can make that adjustment myself, or whether I actually need to incorporate my attorney, that is really, really important. So I think while taking it online to the masses, she is basically throwing kerosene on an already burning fire. And I noticed that JLM Couture took down all the comments and their images on their Instagram, on their account, and now they have a PR mess. So, but in the long run, the decisions that she made that were impulsive could have caused her more damage in the long run. And let's be honest, brides are, around those fans a year, year and a half, and then they're going to recycle, and this is going to be history. And it's going to be something for Hayley Paige forever. But it won't be something that the masses are going to basically rise up against for the long term. And I think that, again, this is very, very sad. And I wish that it were different for her. I think she designs incredible gowns. And I think that this could have been a really great and wonderful match. But in the long run, you really have to protect yourself. And that's what this podcast is basically trying to tell you is look at this from two perspectives. Hers, which is very personal and very touching, and from the business decision. And you have to be able to separate yourself from business and personal sometimes. And so I just hope that you can kind of take a look at the way that you are doing your business and use this as kind of a warning for the future and what you are really looking at for your own business. Should you want to sell a business? Should you, decide that you want to sign a contract for something major? You cannot have fear in that, all right? So I hope that you guys take this to heart, really spend a little bit of time looking at their processes and learn from her and learn from this. And I do want to thank Hayley Paige for going out there and telling all of us what has happened to her, because it will help us as an industry learn and grow and make really solid decisions for ourselves. All right? I'll see you next time.